Welcome back to Pin Pals, the podcast all about enamel pins. I'm your host, Eric Roman from Warrior Pins, and I want to thank you, the listener, for joining me today. Now, if you pull out your syllabus, you'll see there's another magnificent episode lined up for you. I had the pleasure of chatting with Whitney Bennett, aka Lil Boat Boutique. And let me just tell you, this might be my favorite episode. Now, this is only episode 4 of what I hope is a long and successful podcast. But when I went back to edit this episode, I was just kind of taken back at how awesome Whitney is. Her perspective within the pin game is something to admire. First of all, she's going to drop a ton of exclusives throughout the podcast, so listen closely. We'll talk about trending pop culture topics like Save the USPS movement all the way to Lil Yachty. Yes, this is all pin related. She describes her work life before going full-time with Lil Boat Boutique, which I think is really interesting. She talks about how she started her State Flower series and gives us an incredibly hot take on butterfly pin backings. Buckle in, this is going to be our longest podcast yet, and a quick reminder to stick around to the end because something big is going down with the Warrior Pins this Friday. So without further ado, enjoy this conversation with my pin pal, Lil Boat Boutique. Whitney, welcome to Pin Pals. How's it going?
Hello. Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for having me. It's
of
going
course.
Pretty well.
Yeah? How are you surviving through this pandemic situation?
Trying my best. Spending too much money on other people's pins.
Yes.
As some sort of retail therapy, but justifying it as supporting small businesses, helping everyone get through it. But
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing. And it really is about supporting small businesses, especially through a hard time like this.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do even before this all hit. So it's just an extra excuse to to do it.
Have you picked up any new hobbies or anything while in quarantine?
I probably should. Not really. I've been trying to, I guess, challenge myself more when it comes to designing because I don't really consider myself a designer or an artist. It's just hard to feel like I'm up to that level, I guess. But the more I practice,
you're making progress.
The more I improve.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you're keeping busy and staying productive and looking to improve yourself because we all kind of need that little self-help, self-care, self-reflection during this time.
Yes,
and,
especially because I'm staying home and
yes.
staying away from people like everyone else should be. So it gives me a lot of time to kind of focus on my business and myself and figure things out.
So why don't you tell the listeners just a little about yourself before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all?
Okay. My name is Whitney. I currently live in Indiana, but I actually grew up in California in the San Diego area. And then I lived in Chicago for 10 years. So I'm like half West Coast, half Midwest. Definitely love the both of them. Have a hard time deciding what's home, I guess, for myself. I started doing pins in 2016, which was kind of like, I feel like the start for a lot of the main pin people that are still kind of going, or at least it was like the surge of like the fad that came back with pins and people kind of going crazy more than just like the Disney pins and Universal pins and things like that. Just been kind of focusing on that. I was doing it part-time for a long time. And then 2 years ago, I got really sick of my current job, decided to quit it. And then I've just been kind of making this work full time until it's not going to work anymore and I have to figure something else out. But so far, still going.
Yeah, absolutely. As of now, it's mid-August. You have about 12,000 followers on your Instagram. You're doing something right. Your designs are great, and it looks like you have great engagement on your pages and on your posts. I think you're doing great, to be honest.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes I have to be like, yeah, there's 12,000 people there. Like, I probably shouldn't say half the things I say, like, in my stories or in my posts, but I think that kind of helps me. I think people then like, oh, there's a real person. It's not just this brand or these pins. Like, oh, I can see who I'm supporting. I can see kind of what she stands for or doesn't stand for. And that she gets excited about like what she's doing and isn't just like focusing on trying to make the money or I don't know, things like that. Not that
focusing
there's
on the
ton of money.
issues.
Yeah.
No, and that's great. I think honestly, a lot of the more successful accounts, no matter what platform, social platform we're talking about, it's huge when the brands show their face and they're talking about like current social issues and sharing their opinions. You might lose a couple followers, but you're being, true to yourself and you're showing that, and other people will see that, and thus kind of will want to engage more with the brand and feel, more inclined to support the brand.
Yeah, for sure. I would rather use my platform to share resources or support organizations that I believe in and lose followers than just stay silent and ignore everything that's going on in the world just to kind of maintain followers. But luckily, I guess I had a pretty decent following where no one's like super against what I'm having to say, or the fact that I'm like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. And they're like, yeah, true, we're going to stick around. I don't feel like I have to unfollow you. So that has been reassuring. But I mean, obviously there's going to be some people mixed in there that are like, oh, I'm a terrible person. I don't want to be here anymore. And I'm like, fine, I don't want your money. That's cool. You can go away now.
Yeah. No matter what you stand for, there's always going to be people against kind of like what you see. And, oh, well, if they don't stick around, they don't stick around. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, for sure. I would, please go away. I don't want you to follow me, which it probably isn't best for business. But like I said, I would rather have a smaller following of people that do have the right mindset than people that are going to be like against what I have to say and want to buy from me. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into pins. This is a pin podcast after all. So I like to start the podcast by asking this question. What is your earliest pin memory?
Earliest pin memory? Wow. Obviously Disney pins. I grew up in Southern California, so I was at Disney a lot. But I think the most notable one, and I wish I could remember what year, I want to say 1996, but I think that's probably wrong. I have a commemorative pin from a Super Bowl that happened in San Diego. And I didn't go to the actual game, but my dad and my grandpa took me to like all the like side party, like promo stuff that they do around the Super Bowl. So like there was like games and you could throw footballs to win prizes and stuff. And that was like one of the things I wanted from the shop was this commemorative Super Bowl pin. And I still have it. It's still like on its little backing card and stuff. And it's like, I think my oldest pin that wasn't like purchased vintage. It was just a nice little memory of like my grandpa and hanging out with him and my dad and growing up in San Diego, even though we didn't go to the game, but it's still just like a fun little memory.
I love that. What was drawing you to the pin? Was it like a cool design? Was it just being connected to your family like that?
Yeah. And I honestly don't remember like what other options I guess there were in the shop, probably shirts and stuff like that. But I was just like, oh, this shiny little pin, I can wear it. And I think it's just like a pretty generic Super Bowl, like what they flash on the screen before the game and like commercials and stuff. I'll definitely find it and take a picture as like a behind the scenes to go with this so people can see what I'm talking about.
I love that. I love pins that have special memories attached to them. Mm-hmm. So you said you had a day job that you were kind of sick of or just getting a little tired of, annoyed. Talk about that and how you ended up starting the Lil Boat Boutique.
So when I started, I was actually at a different job than my last job. I was working for, I'll say the name. I was working for Paper Source here in Indiana. So a lot of like crafty, creative, always having to like make new things and help customers with their projects. And so I got really into like hand lettering and I had to help people with wedding invitations. So a lot of my initial Lil Boat Boutique stuff was like decor for weddings because it was just like second nature at that point. I was obsessed with buying pins and things like that, but kind of what got me started was working with people getting married. And I'd done stationery in the past. So I was kind of doing some invites and decided I hated that and how kind of high maintenance the whole thing was. But I was still kind of making greeting cards. One of my first things was actually the state flower of Indiana, which is the peonies, inside the shape of Indiana. So kind of one of my first designs was what evolved into my state flower series, even though that didn't come out till like 2 years after I started the business. Yeah, I was doing that kind of stuff and I was like, I don't want to do this. It was just kind of got me started, and I'm glad I chose a name that kind of worked for whatever, because I've had lots of different creative hobbies through my life. And luckily this was one that kind of stuck. But then, yeah, while it was working there, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to make pins. I like pins. So like when I'd be at work, I would be like drawing pin designs and coming up with like what I thought would be cool. And so I ended up quitting that job and getting a desk job. I was a scheduler for a dermatology office. And so I got to sit at a desk just answering phones. So I got to draw on like paper or my iPad as much as I wanted. It was super easy to post on my social media while I was answering phone calls. So that honestly afforded me a lot of room to work and get my business started. Because as long as I was answering the calls and talking to people, I could do whatever I wanted. So luckily I was multitasking. I was able to multitask. And then I was there for a while, and then it finally got to the point where I was like, I don't want to do this either. Like it wasn't fun anymore. Being able to work on the business stuff and have to get yelled at on the phone because someone wanted to see the doctor same day and they couldn't. But I mean, I was super thankful it gave me the opportunity to get started instead of like being on my feet all day and helping people with specific other things. But yeah, I think my second pin started to come out then. But yeah, I would sit at my desk and I would back pins, while I was sitting there, like talking to people. I would pack orders and then just drop them off like when I left work. So that was it was a good start, but I'm so glad I left.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like there was an interesting trade-off there. You know, maybe it wasn't like a fulfilling job, but the nature of the job allowed you to get a lot of creative work done and help get the company started. That's great. Yeah. That's kind of cool, actually.
And going from working retail where I was there nights and weekends always to a day job where I was done with work at 3:30 every day. And so then I could go home and work on orders. I had the weekends off. So I started doing local like First Friday events. So it gave me like the opportunity to kind of branch out into doing in-person events here locally.
Wow. It really worked out for you. You really made that work. Wow.
Yeah. So
that's
it worked
great.
Out.
For sure. I'm curious, how did you come up with the name Lil Boat Boutique?
It was kind of a collab between me and my boyfriend. I've always been super into nautical things in the ocean and especially growing up just super close to the beach in California. And it had evolved a couple of times when I tried to do like Etsy shops in the past. And then it was decided before I even knew who Lil Yachty was. I do get people yelling Lil Boat at me or Lil Yachty at me at shows all the time. And luckily I do like Lil Yachty, so it worked out. But it was definitely before his stuff came out. But a lot of people ask if that was the inspiration. It's like, no, I did stuff with paper a lot. So the little paper boat in my logo was like a little touch to that. And then just loving the ocean and nautical stuff. Like I have a huge ship tattooed on my side and a shark and waves and stuff. So it's just always been something I've been like super into.
That's cute. I think that's also one of the reasons why I liked your brand ever since we connected. Like we connected way back, I think around that 2006 time or 2016.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. At least 3-4 years now at this point.
And I'm a big fan of nautical things in the ocean. You know, if I could have a do-over in life, I would love to study marine biology and just kind of awesome. Live out in the ocean and study whales, specifically orca. So I just thought it was really cute. I love the name. I was just really curious on where that came from.
And then since I have always been all over the place, having it boutique kind of worked out because then I could just kind of I could have my stationery. I do weavings, loom weavings, like wall hangings that are made with yarn.
Oh, wow.
So I haven't done that in a long time. That was something I used to do at desk job too. And then pins. So it just kind of gives me the room to kind of explore and test out different things.
For sure. Good call on that too. I was kind of caught between something similar to that, kind of naming the company based off something that was like Ninja Turtle related, or I could go with something a little bit more generic and not be, confined to just kind of like Ninja Turtle pins and one niche. So I went with something a little more generic so I could branch out and experiment with other things.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely gives you that room to grow or to change.
Yeah, and just to have fun, with the brand and just do other things. You never know what's going to take off.
Yeah, for sure. You really don't.
So talk to me about your first pin. What was it? What were the challenges behind getting it made?
My first pin, it's kind of cringy now, now that I know better. So it was based off of a Beyonce song. So it says "I Ain't Sorry" on it. It's just like a little banner, black and gold, soft metal. I had no idea. I did a lot of research, and obviously I bought a lot of pins at that point. I followed a lot of pin companies. I ended up going with a bigger middleman. I don't want to name them because I don't like them.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, whatever. It's made by Cooper.
Okay.
Because they were like the big ones. So I was like, all right, I'll try them. And I mean, they were super helpful. They took my pencil drawing and turned it into the vector for me and did it. Pricing was super high though. But it kind of got me started. And then once it was time, it sold out pretty quickly, honestly, surprisingly. But that was like super, super Beyonce. Everyone's obsessed at the time. But it was just kind of like, I want a pin that says this because I'm working retail and I'm not sorry. And I just want to tell these people off all the time. And so that was kind of where that came from. But now I'm like, I probably shouldn't be profiting off of this pin. Someone else's words, especially when it feels, I mean, it could be worse, but it's like borderline cultural appropriation. And I was like, I don't say ain't really in my normal, like day-to-day lingo. So I was like, I'll phase that out. But once I was like, I ended up donating profits from the rest of them sold to Black Lives Matter organizations. So I was like, at least feel a little bit better about that.
That's
but
great.
I was like, it's time to retire this, especially because it was more of a simple pin, and it was before I kind of realized I liked hard enamel a lot more than soft enamel. And then I just kind of moved into other things. So yeah, I mean, I'll always love that little pin. It definitely got me started, and I learned a lot. After I left Made by Cooper, I actually switched to Pin Game Strong.
Okay.
And Greg from Pin Game Strong helped me so much with like learning the ins and outs of pin making and kind of what goes into it. And that's when I started like learning how to like do the vectors myself and designing digitally instead of just being like, here's a picture of a drawing. Please do this for me. And got like my Pantone guide and just really, really great resource for someone that's just starting out with pins.
So, what was it about your experience with Made by Cooper? We're not trying to like talk smack about them. I'm just curious. Was it the pricing? Were you not happy with the communication or like the final product? Because there's a lot of things to consider when you're like going through a middleman or even directly with the manufacturer. So I'm curious.
Yeah, for sure. So the biggest thing was the pricing when it came time to reorder. They charge the same thing for the first order as they do for any subsequent orders. But by that point, I knew that there shouldn't be a mold fee every single time.
Right.
So at the very least, that should have been marked down.
Okay.
Since the mold existed already.
Right.
And that should be like reduced. And they're a European company. So the time difference kind of was off a little bit with that, especially when I had a lot of questions. And they're a lot busier. So it was like turnaround time to get answers and just production time. And Just in that time also was when I found Pin Game Strong, which is now Alchemy merch at this point, since they offer a lot more than pins.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they had been recommended to me from another pin maker, and just looking at his website, even if you don't go through them, they have so many resources and all the different metals. And so I was like, if I'm paying the same price anyway to order these a second time, I might as well switch over and go with someone that seems a little more interested in like helping you learn and helping you grow, and not just take your money to make your pins for you.
Sure. Fair points. Very fair points. Yeah. Again, everyone kind of looks at all these different things, and they'll weigh price versus customer service or communication. They'll look at it differently. So it's good to just kind of talk about why we choose to go with a certain middleman or not.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I did a few runs of pins with Pin Game Strong, and then once I was feeling comfortable on the whole process, I started going direct with manufacturers and kind of didn't need a middleman anymore, even though I loved my time with them. And that's basically the only people I recommend to someone starting out, or someone needs to manufacture, because everything else is so iffy.
Yes.
Like even someone you've been using for the longest time, like you can still get bad batches, but at least when you're going through that middleman, they'll take care of it for you. If you're not super familiar with how to approach it. So yes, if you're new to the pin game, if you want to start getting the pins, definitely check out Alchemy merch. Greg and his team are amazing.
So talk to me about your State Flower pin series. I love the idea, and I love the way that they're coming out. Beautiful.
Thank you. I was super excited when I started it. And I mean, I still am. It's still probably my favorite pins, I think. I started it because I wanted pins of my own states, and especially with the state flowers, because the two states I started with were California, where I grew up, which the state flower is the poppies, which I love. And then Indiana, where I am currently, and where I was when I started with the pins, is peonies. And so I was like, yeah, I'll make these. I haven't really seen this kind of idea in pin form. And then those were popular. And then people love to request their own states a lot and very enthusiastically, sometimes aggressively. But most people are pretty nice about it, pretty chill about it. And so then I did another batch, and I did Illinois, which I've lived in. And then I did some of the more popular, I guess, bigger states. So I did Texas and New York. And then I let people vote now through my Instagram. So when the time comes, I'll ask people to, I've done it through a survey once, and I've done it on Instagram comments before. I'll probably stick with survey because Instagram comments can get a little overwhelming.
Yes.
Yeah. I let people vote, and then I take some from the top of the list and some from the bottom of the list to kind of balance it out. So I don't do like all the popular states first and then get left with like the less popular states. But honestly, what I thought would be less popular has been more popular. Like my Kansas pin sells more than my New York pin, but I think it's because there's so many more options for New York in pin form or just art form than there is for Kansas. And so it's kind of representing those people that don't necessarily get the same attention as like a state like New York would. Or the New York design is just bad and people don't like it.
No, it's a great design. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that New Jersey pin to
I know,
drop.
I was going to say, I bumped it up the list for you. I don't think, it's not in my like planned next batch, but it'll come in the one after. And I've actually wanted to, maybe by the time this airs, I'll have started it. I actually really want to do some collabs, not on the pins themselves, but on some sticker sheets where I'll do like half of the designs on the sticker sheet and then pair up with a maker from that state. So like pairing up with you on it for New Jersey, and you submit some designs or contribute some designs related to New Jersey. And then the release as a sticker sheet, and I'll get some to sell and you get some to sell. So hopefully.
Oh, that would be really cool.
Hopefully that'll be rolling pretty soon. I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and I just need to finally sit down and do it. And then just kind of pick one maker from each state, and then it kind of ties to someone that lives there a little more directly.
Ooh, I love this. This is is this a Pin Pals exclusive?
It is.
Ooh,
It is.
Okay.
I mean,
love
I've
it.
told a couple people that I like want to do it with, like a friend that lives in Massachusetts that I've talked to about it. That's in one of my like pin pods on my like pin group chats on Instagram, just to see if it was like a good idea or not. And so I think it would be. I think there's some potential there. And so far, everyone I've talked to about it is excited about it. So maybe we'll work on that New Jersey one soon.
That's very cool. Yeah, definitely sign me up for it. So before we move on to kind of like the next segment, I'd like to ask you if you have any advice or tips for new pin comers.
Oh boy, metal butterfly backings are the worst. Don't use them. They don't work very well. They're not secure. They scratch. If you package more than one pin in a mailer, they're going to scratch the other pins unless you like put them back to back. I just hate them so much. I just hate them so much. Rubber backers are more secure. If you're putting your pin on a jacket or a backpack, get the locking backers. A lot of makers sell them in their shops as an add-on. I have them in my shop, or you can just buy them online in bulk if you have a lot of pins. My first like round of pins had those butterfly backers on them, and I was like, this is the worst. This is the worst. But honestly, the biggest thing I tell people is do your research. There's so many pins out there, so many designs, and a lot of people can have the same idea at the same time without it being a copy. But I don't know, I just have that kind of like respect for other makers. I don't know if that's the word I'm thinking of. But like if someone's already done an idea that I have or that I want to do, I'll not do it. I'm like, it already exists. I don't want to kind of take away from what they're already doing. Unless there's like a way I can change it or kind of make it a little bit more my own, or even reach out. I had an idea a couple years ago for a pin, and I'm a slow designer. I take way too long with my designs, and then someone will come out with like something that's the same thing, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm not doing this anymore. But in that situation, I reached out to the maker and I was like, hey, I've been working on this. I don't want you to think I'm copying, but if you don't want me to do it, I won't do it. And they were like, yeah, if I saw it without you reaching out, I would think you're copying. And I'm not going to tell you you can't, but just it's a little too similar for comfort. So I just kind of scrapped that idea just because I was like, I would feel bad. And if I was in their situation, and I'll be like, just kind of, I can go with one of my million other ideas first, and explore that. And obviously I'm not expecting everyone to be like, well, I want to make this Simpsons pin, but this other Simpsons pin exists. I can't do it. I'm like, well, stuff like that. It's a little bit different.
Right.
I don't know, just being aware of what's out there already and not trying to capitalize on what's working for someone else, or being like, hey, this person's doing a state flower pin design whole series. I'm going to jump in and start one too. And then so you can tell this is a real situation of experience
I see that
I'm dealing with right now, where they're like, oh, I'm starting one and I'm going to swoop in and copyright them to try and take over. And I have 100,000 followers. So I have the means to kind of take this over. So that's been a little annoying.
Oh, that's super annoying.
But the styles are different. I know that I came first. Take it as a compliment that I'm doing something right, and just kind of use it as motivation to kind of hurry up and get more states out there.
Yeah. So,
but just that anxiety, like,
yeah,
in
it's
general,
the worst.
and then like, and I'm like, are people going to like this? Is this just going to flop? Someone's going to beat me to it? Or yeah, it's just kind of hard to ignore those thoughts in your head and be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I try not to get too consumed by that anxiety and just be like, you know what? It's all good. You know, I'm not I can't like really stress myself, because then it's doing me harm. And, you know, that's not why I'm in the pin game. You know, I'm not trying to like deal with that kind of stuff.
For sure. Yeah. I try to be like, I'm making these pins because I like them. And if
Yes.
other people like them, cool. But I want to make them because I want to wear them. And so luckily it's kind of worked out where people have been like, oh yeah, I also like that. But yeah, you just have to put away that imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and kind of keep focusing on what you like. And I don't know. That has been my quarantine hobby is trying to get more comfortable with like, yeah, I like this design. I think it's good. I'm going to put it out there. And so I've actually been posting more like designs on my page instead of just finished products. And so like just like images of actual drawings and stuff. And I've been getting better engagement on those than stuff that exists already. So I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad.
That's great. And that's a kind of a great segue into our next kind of topic of questions, and that's marketing. So let's talk about social media marketing and just kind of like the tactics that you do. First of all, what platforms are you active on?
Instagram's the biggest one for sure. I never check my business Facebook, and that's probably bad. I think I'm probably ignoring a lot of people over there. But I use a service called If This Then That. And so whenever I post on Instagram, it pushes it to my other platforms, but it posts them in like the native format of those platforms. So like on Facebook, it's not just like the Twitter post with the caption cut off and a link. It'll post the image like it's like I was posting it directly there, which I think is a little bit better instead of people just completely being, oh, this is just the Instagram feed kind of going over. Twitter, I am I spend a good amount of time over there. I just like my Instagram tend to kind of use it as a personal page also. Definitely a smaller following over there because I haven't done a whole lot of Twitter marketing. But there's different people over there that are on Instagram. So it's still nice to engage with people over there. And then Pinterest has actually been a good one for me. I spend a lot of time on Pinterest. It also just helps me find other pins that I want to see or want to buy. And so like I have a pin board and a patch board, and I save pins from my friends there, but I also find pins that I didn't know existed and kind of share them there. So it's kind of like a curated grouping of pins that I like or that I want other people to see. So if you're like, yeah, I want to see other stuff that I don't necessarily see like on Instagram or that I wouldn't necessarily find because I only shop on Etsy and I don't look at like people's standalone stores. It's kind of nice to have everything kind of there. But yeah, the state flowers do pretty well on Pinterest.
That's great. Okay, so you're out there in the world. You know, you don't have all your eggs just in the Instagram basket, but
try not to.
Yeah, I think that's really important too.
Especially with the current state of Instagram.
Yes. So you were around in 2016, probably before all the major algorithm changes.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you have something to say about that.
I go back and forth about being like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then I'll like post something and I'll be like, 44 likes. Cool. I have 12,000 followers. You showed it to 400 people. Okay. Thanks, Instagram. And so I'm doing a contest right now. And I was like, let me look at how much it would be to promote that main post for it. So I actually did that this morning. And for $5, so if I did like a 1 day $5 thing, it was going to show my post to like 350 people.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And that's like, yeah, it's so annoying. It's like, just show it to everyone that follows me. Why? Like, just do that bare minimum. I'm even over like the whole chronological thing as much as it would be nice. I think I follow too many people. That's really to make sense. But sometimes I'm like, I won't see someone's like sale post or like their pin drop post till like 2 days later. And then it's sold out. Like there was a pin I wanted to get and I didn't set an alarm for it. And I saw the post maybe like 45 minutes after the launch. I was like, oh yeah, let me go look and see. And of course it was sold out. So it's like, well,
It happens to me too.
Thanks, Instagram.
Yeah. So how do you go about trying to navigate your way through this algorithm?
So I was partially inspired to do that because I have been posting like previews or like getting feedback posts on my Patreon, which I honestly forgot I had just now. Otherwise, I would have mentioned that as part of my platforms.
It was coming up. I had questions about it.
Okay.
I got your back.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, so I've been posting like screenshots of like my iPad and like, this is what I'm working on. Tell me if you think this is okay, or just expect this soon. Or I've been designing more stuff specifically for them for the monthly rewards. And then those things kind of evolve into stuff that I've been posting on my main feed. And so that's why I was like, okay, well, I already have this post of like just these, my new pins that are coming out. There's 3, they're Yikes, Whelp, and Oof, and little pennants. And so it's just like an image of the 3 of them stacked, and the colors are like pretty coordinating. And so I posted that as like a teaser. It's just like, hey, I've just been kind of messing around with these. These are words that kind of sum up how I'm feeling in 2020. And then there was a really good reaction to those and people asking for it as pins. And I was like, all right, guess I'll make pins. So those are coming up soon. Those will be here when the peach pin comes. There's also, I have lots of exclusives for you.
I love it.
So I ordered the versions that are shown in that image. But there's also, so those are going to be soft enamel, so I could do the dyed metal. But there's hard enamel versions coming that are just gold, black, and white. A little classier for people that don't want the more colorful, or people that prefer hard enamel over the soft enamel. And so I'm excited about that. Yeah, it's just kind of stemmed from that. Like, okay, well, people don't hate when I'm drawing. Mm-hmm. So I can, maybe I'll try posting it on my Instagram, and it worked out. And so I've just been kind of writing that and kind of giving previews a little bit more. And then it kind of holds me accountable, honestly, to kind of stick with it or actually get those things made and not wait 2 months and then someone else does it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a great job by sharing a lot of these, even, in progress designs. I think it's really cool, and you're feeding what your followers want, and I guess kind of expect from like a little boutique like yourself.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, definitely trying to like be more artistic, I guess, mm-hmm. not just do the pins. So like I have a print that just came in of basically those 3 pennants stacked that I'll be listing soon. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, I can use this thing in other mediums too, which is nice. It's just kind of trying to branch out a little bit and not just post pictures of the same pins for sale, like products. Like, I think people at a certain point get sick of just being marketed, like, yep. Buy this, please buy this. Yep, you can. And so I try to balance it out, especially because I haven't, with the whole pandemic and everything, I haven't released a new pin in a while. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just kind of like burnt out on the same things. And so that's when I was like, all right, let's try out some of these new designs and give people like little sneak previews and stuff. And it's been working out.
It's that I think you're doing a cool job kind of promoting other people, other pin shops, other, people of color or black owned pin shops and things like that. I'm looking at a couple posts right now. You're giving some love to other pin makers like Otherworld, who just went through all that BS.
That's another Instagram thing. I'm actually wearing one of his shirts right now.
Yeah.
Poor Robert.
Yeah.
He's there's been a few pin makers that I've known that have had their account shut down with like thousands and thousands of followers. And he's been in pin game longer than most people. Like he was celebrating his 5-year anniversary.
Yeah.
And they shut down his account and he's basically starting over from scratch. So it's like, yeah, you don't necessarily want to put all your eggs in one basket, like you said, but it's like Instagram's the best place to be also. So it's frustrating. And especially like trying to rebuild that audience and kind of let people know that that's happening. So mm-hmm. I'd been doing these like Feature Friday posts And I actually was like, I don't really know who to post this week. And I haven't been forcing it. Like there's a couple of weeks I've missed because I want it to be someone I'm like excited about and have a lot of things to say.
Yeah.
And so his account went down and I was like, all right, I'm going to post Underworld this week because I can like rave about how great of a person he is and how good of a designer he is. And we've done a lot of pin shows together when I travel out for those, and just always so welcoming and just always so helpful to pin makers that are newer or just are his friends and stuff. So I was happy to share him and his situation with my followers if it could help even just a little bit.
Yeah, Rob is an OG. Shout out to Rob. Love you, brother. Gonna have to have you on the pod soon. Another thing that I see you doing, you do really cool giveaways. More specifically, the recent one, the postcard giveaway.
Yes.
That's a great marketing tactic, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about it.
So that's one that I've wanted to do for a while. It kind of came to mind when I started my state flower series. So I was like, oh, I can have people mail me postcards of these states, and then I have like free props basically to make posts with, or like, oh, cool, I have a California postcard. I can use that as a background with my California pin just to kind of mix it up. So it's not always just like the same white or whatever color background. And I just kept putting it off because I was like, it seems like a lot to organize. And then it kind of, the timing worked out with the Postal Service needing help, kind of circling back to that.
Yep.
Because I'm like, all right, people are sending more mail anyway. They know that they should be buying more stamps, or that they could help by buying more stamps, and people are stuck at home and not getting as much like interaction with other people. So I was like, all right, send me postcards, send me cards. I made the promise to send everyone that sends me one, I'll send them something back. So I'm still working on exactly what that'll be. It'll definitely have a discount code for everyone that participated, which I don't know if I've told any of them that yet.
Another exclusive.
Yeah, I'm just dropping exclusives all over the place. But yeah, so it'll be a design specifically for them. So it'll be a postcard, but I think I'm going to send them in an envelope just so they can use it for whatever they want going forward.
Oh, cute. I like that.
And then I can kind of like throw like one of my logo stickers in there, or like specific notes. So like there's people who sent like 6 cards or like multiple, like going out of their way to send me super cute notes. Like I've had real life friends send me stuff just to be like, hey, I just wanted to send you a card. I don't need to be part of the contest. People that I've made friends with through pins that I haven't actually met in person. Just people that I'm like, you're a new follower, but they find the contest and don't even follow me, but like, I want to do this. It sounds cool. So I did weekly giveaways for like smaller prizes. But the grand prize, the person gets to pick my next state that I'm doing for my series. Yeah. And then it gets fast tracked. So it won't have to wait on the other group that I'm doing. I'll work on it. I said it'll be like a 2-week turnaround to get the design. They get to give me feedback on like colors and things like that. Yeah. So some people are excited about it because they are like, if this is a chance to move my state to the top, I'm gonna send 1 million postcards. And some people are like, well, my state's already been made, but I'll choose one that my friend wants, or I just want to win the other stuff. So they'll also get all of the existing pins in the series. And then I don't remember if I said 5 or 10 of the one that I get made that they chose. They'll get those to give away, and then like a one-off piece of art based on the flowers for that state.
Wow. They're hitting the jackpot with this one. That is awesome.
So I know the people on the podcast won't be able to hear it, but this is the stack of, this is just week 1.
Holy moly.
I haven't counted exactly how many.
It's like as thick as a Harry Potter book, maybe even thicker.
Yeah. So these are all the postcards, and then these are all the ones that came in envelopes.
Wow.
Which is getting harder to like draw from.
Yeah.
I'm like, do I put them in like a huge, like a storage tote and just like,
Shake that around.
I don't want to destroy them either.
Yeah.
So I think I might take on logging them.
Okay.
And then doing like a number generator to pick them from the list. But that's also a lot of time too.
Yep.
I don't know. I got to figure it out.
Wow.
Or maybe just stick with like a big tote and then have someone else that doesn't necessarily know. Like there's some that have like 3D effects to them. And I feel like if I felt that, I'd be like, oh, I know whose that is.
Sure.
It's like, do I pick it because I know them or do I not
Right.
pick it because I know who they are? And so I just don't feel like that's super fair. So I gotta kind of work out the kinks there, but I'm excited about it. And I can't believe the response to it and how many people are participating, and super exciting.
It's incredible. When I first found out, I fell in love with the idea. It's so wholesome too. It's a great way to connect with people, and for you, it's a great way to reach out and connect your brand with these people and add a personal voice to it and a personal connection. And I think that's huge when trying to grow a business. So like you're winning on all fronts with this giveaway idea. I love it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to write back to people because I always like sending mail. And I mean, working at a stationery store, I have just hordes of greeting cards and postcards and stationery. So it's like, yeah, if I have an excuse to buy stamps, cool stamps, and send cards and stuff, then I'll take it. And then if I can just kind of also use it to promote myself or give people a chance to win stuff from my brand, and I don't know, win-win.
Whitney, you're killing it right now. I love it. I love it. So let's talk about what's it like vending at shows for you?
It's different because there's no pin dedicated shows in Indiana. And so I've gotten my start doing shows, kind of doing like local First Fridays or markets. And so I'll be the only one with like pins and patches, and everyone's like vintage clothing or like paint, like oil paintings or illustrations or jewelry. And so I think it's nice to kind of have that variety. And I get a lot of people who don't, they're not into pins or not in the pin community. So it's always been like a good reaction at those. And it kind of introduces people to that world, or people that are local and are into pins get super excited that there's someone selling pins. So I get a lot of repeat people come in, customers that have become friends locally, and people that'll just come out just to say hi to me, even though they're like, I already have the pins I want. I just wanted to come say hi because I know you're going to be here. So it's been kind of rough not having that every month. And I mean, financially, sure, but just that interaction and seeing those people and kind of getting that connection with them. But then there's the big guys, the big pin shows that I travel for. We did one together, even though didn't get a chance to talk. So the main ones I do are in California because it's easy for me to stay with family and fly out there and just kind of make it like a double whammy.
Sure.
But I've done the pins and patches in New York that you also did. And then I've done the Midwest Flair Fest in Chicago.
Okay.
And that one's a lot of fun. Smaller scale, but really cool, really fun. So I miss those two because now it's 2 California ones this year that didn't happen. I
know.
And New York didn't happen. And I was going to try to go to either Arizona or Texas this year. That was my goal, was to branch out to a new place. Didn't happen, but just something to look forward to and work towards for once. Once it's all kind of back to normal.
Yeah. Do you also suffer from that anxiety of just trying to get all your stuff and your table set up, and how do you do it? Do you have family out in California that you just ship the stuff to, and then just kind of?
I have not shipped. I take it on the plane with me.
Oh, snap.
And that is a different level of stress. So the first few times I carried on pins, and that is a wild experience for TSA. Because Especially if you don't tell them what's going on first, it'll go through and they're just like, what is all this metal with all these points and stuff? So I've started telling them ahead of time, like, hey, I sell pins. There's a bunch of product in here. It's sharp, but everything's like protected. I promise it's fine. And so I have like it down now. So I'll put them in like plastic, like zip or gallon bags by pin. And then those go in like plastic totes. And then that goes in like a big duffel bag. So then I can pull out the totes easily and I'm not just pulling out like random like bags of stuff.
Smart.
And then those can go through the x-ray like on its own. And then they're like, they'll still look at it at the end to be like, let me just make sure. And then they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. And I've tried to give pins to a couple of TSA agents in the past, but they're like, I would love it, but we're just not allowed to take anything from anyone. And I'm like, all right, well, sorry. But the last couple times I checked my pins and that was super stressful because I just didn't want to carry them through everything again. So I was like, other people put them in their like suitcases and just, it's fine. So I was like, I'll try it. And it worked out fine. But yeah, there's stress there too of like, what if they lose your suitcase? What if it opens and everything spills out and just ruined? But it's worked out so far. But yeah, leading up to traveling for it, I'm stressed out beyond belief. And then once I'm there and I'm like, this isn't my normal setup. It's like a small, because I can't travel with all my stuff. And then everything's like not set up the way it would be. So now in California, in my mom's place, I have tables. I have like plastic, like drawers. I have bulletin boards. I have like display stuff, like all stashed up in her like attic that I can like use instead of like having to bring stuff every single time. Every time I do one, I just kind of acquire more things.
Yep.
So that is nice. But when it came like to doing New York, I was like, I don't have a way to do this. I'm staying in a hotel. I'm getting in like the night before. There's like no time to like really process anything. So yeah, that was a little more stressful for me, but it was a lot of fun. I usually do them by myself and it can get pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
But it's like, even if I had someone there to set up with me, I'm like, I don't know what to tell you to do. I'm still figuring this out. And you can just sit there and watch me and give me moral support because I'm still going to do it all myself. But at least when you have someone with you, they can help you carry stuff and you don't have to kind of do a million trips.
Right.
And they can watch your table so you can like go get food and stuff like that, or go get food for you. That's always nice. So you're not just behind a table for 8 hours.
Yes, 100%.
Talking to people nonstop.
It's great. Don't get me wrong.
It is.
But it's very exhausting.
Yeah, there's a lot of stress. But then once it's like going, it's like, oh yeah, this is amazing. I love talking to people about pins. I love seeing the pins that they come in wearing. Or like people, I usually do an exclusive pin for the California shows. It's usually just a variant of my existing California like state. So then people will come with like the previous ones and I'm like, hey, you're back. And so they like try to like collect them all and stuff. So it's cool to kind of see those same people, even if it's like once or twice a year that I'm out in California doing shows, but that they'll still kind of come back. And even if they don't buy something, just be like, hey, I just wanted to say hi. I saw you're going to be here again. Or getting to see my pin maker friends that I only see at those shows and kind of getting to trade and hang out with those people briefly and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So would you say that's probably your favorite part about vending at these shows?
Yes, because I can get a lot of pins in one place. And then I get to see a lot of people that I don't get to see very often because I'm not out there in the California pin scene all the time. It's just when I come out for the bigger shows that are kind of worth the flights and everything to come out there.
So before we move on to our last topic, do you have any advice for those looking to start vending at shows?
Probably start small. That worked out for me. Maybe attend shows, like go to a Pins and Patches show or one of the other shows and kind of see how it's set up, or check their Instagram and like see what people have done in the past. Counting, like making sure you bring all of your products. I ran out of California pins at a California pin show once, and that was stressful. So I just was like, here's discount code, here's free shipping, I promise. I have more at home, I just didn't bring enough.
I've been there.
So that that was something. I mean, I guess I don't know because I'm still figuring it out. I'm still stressed about it every time. Bring lots of water, drink lots of water, stay hydrated, sunscreen if it's outside. Just be able to kind of talk about your pins and be ready to have a line probably, or like a lot of people at your table at once, and be able to handle it all, or bring someone with you. There you go. Bring someone with you that can help you.
Those are a lot of great tips, and they'll all help. All right, so let's get to the last portion of the podcast, which is a little rapid fire. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, and first thing to kind of pop to your head, shout them out. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Which one of your pins was your favorite to make?
Oh boy. It changes all the time. Right now, I would say it's one of my earlier pins, but it's still a classic, and it still kind of hits home for a lot of people, is my Homesick Pin.
Yes.
Especially since I'm out of state from where I grew up, and now I'm out of state from like my second home, and just kind of always like missing somewhere. And home doesn't have to necessarily be a place, a physical place and stuff. And it's a little astronaut out in space, and it says homesick. And it's like, hey, you could be somewhere super rad, like out in space, and still feel homesick for someone or something. And I think that it kind of hits with a lot of people, and it's just still, I haven't retired it because it's still kind of going, and I still love it so much. And I've done a few different variants of it just to kind of mix it up or give some different options. And yeah, that one will always just kind of be my baby.
It's such a cute pin. Very adorable. I love it. I'm going to have to order it. What is your proudest accomplishment with Lil Boat Boutique?
Oh, goodness. Honestly, I think doing shows. I've always been kind of a quiet, anxious person and not super social. And the fact that I'm like, yeah, I'm going out and doing these shows and talking to people and kind of putting myself out there. Mm-hmm. That was kind of like a big step for me. And the fact that I still keep doing it, and I don't know, it's a lot of fun, and it's maybe more of a personal accomplishment than like a milestone for my business. But it's still like I've grown a lot doing those, and learned a lot about my business and myself, and kind of being able to be social.
Oh, that's awesome. That's huge. I love that.
Yeah.
What is your favorite pin in your collection?
Oh, I thought you might ask something like this. I feel like I grabbed a couple. That changes because I have like different themes within my collection. So like I have a lot of Twin Peaks pins that I collect. And then now I collect state pins to kind of pair with the ones that I make, or that people gift me a lot now. I'm going to shout out one that I just got. So I'm going to say it's my favorite because it's my first fantasy pin that I've ever gotten. Because I've always been like just confused and in awe of fantasy pin makers that like make like 35 pins and they're like 4 inches big, and they're like super detailed and have like different crazy effects. So I just got one from Evergood merch. He's doing some Lord of the Rings ones. So it's a Gandalf pin. So I'll show it to you because you can see it. But look how big this is.
Holy cow.
So this is my California pin. That's 2 inches tall. So this is at least 3 inches. And it has transparent metal. It has screen printing. It's the biggest pin I've ever seen. And it's my first ever, it's my first fantasy type pin, and I've always been like, I don't understand why they're charging so much or why they're making so few. Like, just make more. And now I have it, and I'm like, I gotta buy more. Yeah, I gotta buy more. And actually, one of his pins was that one that I said I missed because I didn't set a timer and it was too late. It's a Star Wars. Sorry, my mind went blank. It's a Star Wars fantasy pin, and it's really cool. And now I'm like, well, now I have to start collecting these big pins too. Okay.
You're going to need a separate board just for the big boys.
I know. I actually have been working on my pin boards here. So there's one.
Ooh, look at that.
I have like a whole rig set up that I'm like ruining right now. That'll be a behind the scenes photo because this is a mess. Yeah, I have one big board that's been full, and I've just been like putting my pins in like a bin because I'm like, I need another board, and I get a lot of pins when I do shows and stuff. And I've been buying a lot during the pandemic. So I was like, all right, I'm finally going to get another board. And so I've been like trying to reorganize that. And I'm like, I have so many pins. I love it. And I'm glad that they're finally all going to be on display so I can look at them and wear them more often because they're easier to get to. But there's a lot of pins.
I love that problem though. That's a problem I'll happily welcome into my life.
Yes, for sure. And so that's why I'm like, it's so hard for me to say what my favorite pins are because it changes day to day, basically. Or like, oh, I haven't seen this pin in a while. Oh, I love that pin. That's my favorite pin.
I love it. If you had a redo in life, what would you do differently?
Ooh. Just in general?
Just in general.
I maybe would have stayed in Chicago.
Why do you say that? The pizza really good?
The pizza is good. But yeah, I spent from like age 20 to 29 there. So like real formative years there. A lot of my like close friends are there and I love the big city and I don't know, just kind of became my home. And as much as I love Indiana and I'm still in the Midwest, which I enjoy and stuff, but I'm like, I miss Chicago.
I've never been, but I'd like to go one day.
I think you'd like it. But luckily it's only like a 3-hour drive, so I can still drive up there and visit and stuff. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, I should have stayed.
Give me a hot take.
Ooh.
I'll give you one.
Okay.
And I'm gonna keep saying this on all the podcasts because I will stand by this until the day I die. Pizza tastes better cold. I love cold pizza.
I love cold pizza. Yeah, I back that. Ooh, I was thinking it was just a pin related hot take. Now it can be anything. Ooh boy, wear a mask.
Hot take, wear a mask. Can you believe it? You have to say that. Some people actually won't wear masks.
No, they won't wear a mask. Hot take, Black Lives Matter.
Ooh, I love it.
Another one. Why is this the world that we're living in? The Postal Service is essential. Yeah, if people watch my stories, they know that I'm like stressing about all of these things all of the time and posting stuff all of the time for it. And that's not like me trying to be like, it's like, no, I just get frustrated and I want to share it because otherwise I'm just going to sit here and like stew and be angry all the time. But if I can kind of put it out there and hopefully share resources that people can learn from, not just me yelling out into the void, then hopefully that helps. And so far people seem to think it does. But yeah, why is like basic human, why is that a hot take?
I wish I had the answer. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of at least like a lighthearted hot take right now. I like pineapple on pizza. So everyone seems to be all or nothing. I don't want pineapple on every pizza, but it's always like, yeah, pineapple should be on pizza or it shouldn't. It's like, well, no, there's right situations for it. It's not all or nothing here. I don't want it on every pizza, but sometimes you're in the mood for some pineapple, especially cold. I don't like warm pineapple.
Yeah.
So that's why you gotta wait till the next day. You gotta eat it cold. So it's kind of a combo with yours.
And it's just kind of like good and refreshing cold pineapple pizza. Like I'm about that. I can get down with that for sure. I have gotten down with that. Let me correct myself. I very much enjoy pineapple pizza.
Yes. Before I stopped eating meat, like Hawaiian like ham and Hawaiian ham and pineapple pizza was like my jam. And now that I don't eat meat, I still get pineapple on pizza, but it's usually a little bit different.
I love it. All right. Last but not least, what are the little things in life for you?
Oh boy. Pins.
Good answer.
I really enjoy, so every morning I have like a yard. I rent a house with my boyfriend. So it's nicer than like, we've only lived in apartments beforehand really, but we have like a yard. So every morning I start my day by going out there with my dog and I sit outside. And if it's not super hot, I like to draw out there. Or I've been trying to get back into reading. So I'll take a book or a graphic novel out there with me to read. And she rolls around in the grass or chases squirrels or whatever. And it's just like no social media, just kind of chill out. Just kind of enjoy the quiet and like, I don't know, being outside for a little bit before I kind of get back into scrolling and posting and yelling online.
Just using the morning to decompress.
Kind of highlight of my day just to kind of start off on a good foot.
Definitely. I do the same thing minus the dog and renting a house. Congratulations. That's awesome. But try to get outside and start the day with like a walk, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to start walking to take my orders. I found like the closest like drop box. So I'm like, once it's been like in the 90s. I'm not gonna walk to take your orders in the 90s. Sorry everybody, I'm not doing it. But once it's a little bit cooler, I would like to walk and take them, just to kind of change up my routine. I drive to the local post office instead of using drop boxes currently. Because I also have a P.O. box, so it's like I have to go there to check it anyway.
Yeah.
But I take my dog because she loves going in the car, so it's like a whole little trip. But I'm like, all right, we'll just walk and do it this other way to kind of change things up. But it's just been too hot for her and for me to walk. Like, I think it's like 1.5 miles to the closest one, which isn't far, but you just don't want to be out in 95-degree heat and humidity doing that.
Yeah, I did that once just because I was like, let me get a walk, let me get a tan. It's hot, who cares? And I wore my mask the entire way. And it's only like a little over 1 mile. But I was like drenched by the time I got to the post office. So it was the worst mistake ever.
It's awful. And it's like part of why I miss Chicago, because I walked everywhere. I didn't have a car or like access to a car there. So it was either taking the bus or walking everywhere. I used to like walk like 4 miles to work at like a certain point in my life. And I'm like, I want to get back into like walking and kind of taking my camera with me and taking pictures along with like cool, fun things that I see, or just like street art or flowers or whatever, and kind of slowing things down and just not staring at my phone or driving there and never like, I don't know, experiencing anything really.
Well, that's great. I love that you're sticking to these little daily morning rituals. That's fantastic. And guess what? You made it to the end of Pin Pals.
You got me with a couple tough ones there at the end.
Stumped them. Got them. I'm going to give you the floor. You know, tell the listeners where they can follow you. Anyone you want to shout out, any followers in particular, or your friends and family. The floor is yours, Whitney.
Oh boy, of course I forget everyone that I know at all. Everyone can find me on all social medias. It's Lil Boat Boutique. Everywhere. I'm Tumblr, Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, pretty much anything. TikTok, anything you can think of. Even if I don't use it, I'm there. TikTok. No. I love to watch videos. I have not figured out any like proper ways to use it for my business yet, but I just use it to kind of watch other people's fun ones. Nostalgia Vault has a good TikTok. He's worth following there. My Patreon is also /Lil Boat Boutique. I'm trying to do a lot more like videos and behind the scenes stuff over there. A lot of like previews and polls to vote on like different stuff that's coming out. A lot of stuff that's coming up now has started out as rewards for them in a different format and just kind of evolved. So that's always like, it's just another way to kind of connect with people. But shout outs. So I want to shout out 2 people that have had their accounts deleted by Instagram because it's tough out here. So we talked about Robert from Otherworld. His new Instagram is Otherworld 2.0 with the period in there.
Yep.
Follow him. He has some really great pins, some Ninja Turtle pins. I know you are super into that. I have, I think, most of his Ninja Turtle pins at this point, because he's always coming out with new ones and has some other really good pins too. And then my friend Erica, she had hers deleted because of some Bravo related, I think it's Bravo, the Queer Eye
Yes.
crew shut her down. Yeah, she has some really good Queer Eye pins. She has some just kind of like original content ones. She has some super cute, if you're into Animal Crossing like me, she has some super cute postcards right now that you can buy and send to some friends that also like Animal Crossing. Her name's Erica. Her Instagram is it's Do with 2 O's, DOO stuff. Do was her last name, so just a little fun play on that. But yeah, 2 people that have been out here working real hard and just kind of got taken down by the Instagram man, which is kind of a bummer. And I don't know, just a big part of pins has always been the community for me and kind of supporting other people that support me. And I don't know, give them shout outs, because if I don't stick to something specific, I'm going to ramble people off forever and I'm going to miss people and it's just going to be bad. So yeah, Robert and Erica, give my shout outs. Got my shout out for Warrior Pins.
Woo woo.
I love the stuff you're doing.
Thank you.
I loved you just posted it, but it'll be old by now, but your TMNT USPS design you just posted. I love that.
Thank you. I had to do something.
Yeah. And just ties in perfectly with all your stuff. So very on brand.
Thank you. And you also have a discount code for us, for all the listeners.
Yes. Exclusive for the Pin Pals.
One last exclusive.
Yes, it's been dropping lots of exclusives on y'all today. So this will be good in my online store, like my actual store, lilboatboutique.com, or my Etsy if you prefer shopping there. Discount code is Pin Pals. Super easy to remember because you're all my Pin Pals. And that's good for 25% off.
Boom, 25% off.
And I'll have it good through the end of 2020.
Bam, I like that. I love that.
Yeah.
You guys better take advantage of this, because her pins, Whitney's pins, are to die for. And there's something there for everyone. You're going to find something that you love. And
I'll have some Halloween pins coming out soon. Probably should have, I hope, at least 5 states coming out before the end of the year. So
wow,
there should be some good stuff.
Whitney, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you hopping on the Zoom call with us and getting to talk pins. We loved it. Thank you so much.
My favorite thing. Yeah, thank you so much, Eric.
Isn't Whitney amazing? I feel the pin community is blessed to have someone like her involved. I wish her nothing but success as she continues to lead a path of righteousness in the pin game. As always, thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the pod. It truly means a lot. I see and hear you guys out there, and I appreciate all the kind words. Special shout out to Ace E for leaving a review that really left me speechless. Thank you, Ace. That really brightened my day. You can read that over at Apple Podcast while you leave your own review. Gotcha. Okay, 2 quick things. Number 1. Take a screenshot of this podcast, wherever you're listening to it, phone, car, TV, whatever, and post it on Instagram and tag us, Pin Pals Podcast and Lil Boat Boutique. Tell us what you enjoyed most about the episode. Bonus points if you share it as a post, put a story, reel, tweet, tickety-talk, whatever. Just make sure that Whitney can see it. Doing this will really help the podcast be a platform of positivity, so let her know what your favorite part was, what was the biggest takeaway, or, if you just want to say thanks for a great conversation, that's totally cool too. Okay. Agenda item number 2, the big news that I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, Warrior Pins is dropping some new product this Friday, September 25th, 2020. I'm not going to spill all the beans, but I will say there are multiple items being released, and for the first time, we're releasing a new type of product. So if this sort of interests you, then make sure you're following Warrior Pins on Instagram. Okay, let's quickly wrap this up. Follow and subscribe to the podcast wherever podcasts are available. 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts would be awesome. Reviews and comments are always welcome. Find the podcast on Instagram at Pin Pals Podcast. Support the podcast by buying pins from Warrior Pins and email us with any feedback. pinpalspodcast@warriorpins.com. You got all that, right? Cool. I'm Eric from Warrior Pins. Thank you for your time. And remember, it's the little things in life. I'll see you soon.